Linux Foundation, and Jan Krems from Groupon. Andy Updegrove, are you on the line? Okay, no Andy today. All right, let's get started.
Okay, so there's the dial-in info. Antitrust compliance, if anybody has any questions about the antitrust compliance, please direct them to Andy Updegrove, our attorney. Member directory, no new members to report. A resolution here to approve the public minutes from the last session in October. So resolved that the minutes of the public session of October 2016 meeting of the Board of Directors and the form attached here to as Exhibit A are hereby confirmed, approved, and adopted. Can I get a motion in a second?
And motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion passes unanimously. So, Node.js in the media. We have some new charts that we're going off of now rather than the share of voice charts that we were using prior. You can see here that we have just kind of general Node.js coverage month over month. We're still counting absolute articles. We don't have sentiment analysis. We don't really know how many people looked at each of those. And one of the things that we're trying to do in the next year is focus on quality over quantity. So these may come down a little bit in absolute terms, but we hope to eventually replace this graph with something that actually lines up with where we want to go. But in the meantime, we basically flat around 3,000 articles. You know, we have some peaks nearing 6,000, some lows below that, but we're kind of leveling off around 3,000 on a monthly basis. In terms of share of voice.
Question on that. For historical perspective, you know, one of the challenging things about moving KPIs like that is you lose the history of how you were doing for, you know, particular, you know, whatever you were tracking, and then you kind of pull up the universe and replant things. Is it possible for us to continue that? You know, continue tracking the way we were tracking, just so we, you know, maybe it doesn't go in the, you know, the deck, but, you know, I'd love to, you know, continue to see that trend.
Yeah, what we were doing, if people don't remember, is we were tracking it by categories of Node.js plus enterprise, or Node.js, we can do IoT, we can do, it's a very easy search to customize and pull that, and we can definitely continue to do that. And whether we share that just in an email alias and not in the board deck, that's fine.
Okay,
that'd be great.
That would be great.
Cycle.
I'd like to continue to track that. Thank you.
Yeah, and those have been going out on a monthly basis to the marketing committee for a while.
They have been, yeah. I think there might have been 1 or 2 months there where we just got a little behind and it went over a 2-month span, but yeah.
So share of voice. In Q1 and Q2, we have about close and then about 2/3 the coverage of Java. In Q3, that dropped to about half the coverage of Java. Again, we don't have sentiment analysis, so we don't know if it was positive or negative coverage of Java, or us for that matter. And looking at the numbers that we have so far for Q4, it's looking like half again. We've also though started to move towards not paying like the market wire fees and a lot of the fees that get us like a lot of volume, but not a lot of quality in terms of like the coverage and articles that go out there. So I'm not that surprised that it's dropping a bit.
I just need to overlay big conferences like Java and DevOps.
Right.
Q2.
I think maybe Oracle will happen too.
Right, and there was a lawsuit in there. And also, yeah, that was Q2.
I think that was Q2.
Yeah, that was mostly Q2, a little bit into Q3.
Okay. Because Q2 and Q3 are like identical for Java, basically.
And Q4 doesn't include our most recent push this week, and we're only one factor in the whole full share voice for Node.js, but it doesn't include this week's activity because, you know, we'll have to update it next week.
Yeah, I think that this Q4 will do really well. I mean, I remember last year's Node Interactive, I think it was like one of our best ones ever.
Do we have access to the raw data used to generate these? Okay, how can I get?
It's a Google spreadsheet. I can share it with you. Might not be pretty, but
If
do
I
I want to
list
play
the
with
URLs,
the
I can actually do some of the.
Alright.
I can do some of the sentiment analysis.
Okay, so you want not just the totals, but the actual URLs by individual article. Yep, we can pull both.
We can do some things with BigQuery and now.
If you guys can figure out a way to.
I can turn it into a talk.
That'd be great.
I was going to say, it's a little bit. I love that even more, but okay.
If I had a free BigQuery account, I would do so.
BigQuery is very friendly about giving open source organizations a bunch of free stuff. And like, even like helping people do it. So if anyone wants an introduction, I know she's been helping MCM get some types of JSON data for GitHub. There's a way we can get around not paying.
Yeah, Justin did that too, right? Like, he did yeah.
Add a column.
Okay, any other share of voice questions?
So what about up and coming languages?
Yeah, it's cool.
There is awesome.
But it's like,
I just, she's a little.
Nothing.
Oh, so it's on, there's other things that you're,
Scala's
Good.
really holding on. But like Ruby and Go are way, way low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does Python even
Go
register?
barely shows up.
Now?
You could get Python in here. No, Python's probably higher.
I think it's hard to write.
Thanks, I thought that they've been churning up, I thought, in interest lately,
Which one?
over the past year of Python.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I'm very surprised.
They continue to get included in a lot of other things. I think a lot of it is the scientific community stuff. Like they've really nailed that.
Yeah, sci-fi sweet.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that lately.
Yeah.
Rasmus Lerner saying that Etsy was, PHP 7 was holding up nicely for Etsy through Black Friday. Nice.
So, Node.js interactive numbers. So we did great on sponsorship. We have a ton of people here. We couldn't even fit everybody on one slide when we did the sponsor slides. So that was great. Registration, I know we passed 600.
Yeah,
We're over 700.
We're over 700?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
So that's great. We're doing really, really well. We've reached our goals there. We're good, kind of underway.
Especially since AWS is going on too.
Right now.
So.
yep. The accomplishment. And we've been happy with traffic so far.
Yeah, it's been great. TSC update, I'll hand it over to Ron for this one. Remember to speak up to that. Or
Yeah, I'm going to read off your computer because it's been beautiful things. Okay, so a couple of board meetings ago, I did give you a heads up that we were considering the question of whether we should move NVM into the foundation space, the Node version manager. It exists in a competitive ecosystem, so it's not a straightforward question. So part of dealing with that is that we've collected a coalition of people interested in this question, and they've formed it's actually not a working group, it's a discussion group really at this point, version management discussion group, and they are discussing this question and advising us on what the strategic direction is there. So the TSC's concern is bring NVM in, bless it as the de facto standard, and destroy a competitive ecosystem, or is there a way around that? And so they're even discussing possibly, and it's actually made up of people from across different projects that are competing, talking about possibly pulling their resources and just making a new one from scratch. So they're doing some work there, and again, they're going to advise us on if there's anything that we need to do to support that, whether it be bring something in or something else. So we'll keep you updated on that. Questions, yeah?
Just having listened to Doug's discussion about the evolution of Express, there may be some learnings there to apply to versus as they're pulling it apart. Express has gone through a really large overhaul. They pulled everything out, separated everything apart. So Doug and the rest of the Express team might be interesting.
Sure, okay. Actually, there's a couple of people here that are really key in that activity there, so I'll encourage them to talk to Doug. But yeah, this has been really tricky for us. It's been on the agenda for us for a long time, and it's just been so difficult to make this decision strategically, because there are good reasons that we might want to look after that project, because it's a key project and it's put under some risk, but there's risks for us in adopting it as the official, or even making it look like an official, because even if we can't say this is the official one, it would look like that way.
And at the same time, there's this clear need for, at some point, the core project to take on the responsibility for version management.
Well,
it's a big problem for our user base, and could allow us to more easily update people as well.
How about their ecosystem stuff? Because I know in Ruby it hasn't happened.
Java, no. So
And I don't know a single ecosystem that actually has.
Good point.
So I think.
Oh, except, Rust.
Oh, really?
Rust Up is one of the, is part of the core project.
That's great.
So I guess that's the one ecosystem I can think of.
You said it's competitive space. Do we have any penetration numbers? Because
That's
all I hear is NVM.
No, so we don't have numbers because it's really hard to collect. We do know that NVM is probably the most used, but that's probably driven by services like Travis, which is the heaviest user of NVM.
NVM doesn't work on Windows.
Right.
Yeah, we know that.
It's a penetration of Windows and Node, there's a ton of it, and so you can't.
Do we want to bring something in that doesn't have Windows support, even though they're talking about having that on their roadmap? So anyway, it's a vexed question. We're not going to, we'll keep the board informed, and it's something that, we'll come back to this actually a little bit later, but it's something that we'll want to get sign off from the board from anyway if we want to expand into that space, because it's actually it's a scope increase, which the board needs to be involved in, because it's not specifically about core.
We also included a number of questions around version managers on our survey to make it's not going to capture actual numbers, but it'll at least give an idea of use.
When will we get that information back?
We actually didn't put a close date on that survey, so the survey goes out tomorrow.
Yeah, we talked about doing a little bit longer window because we're going to go over the holidays.
Yeah.
So I think last year it was open for like 3.5 weeks, but I think we might keep it open.
Yeah, I figured it would be through the new year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it won't be till January.
Just kind of an aside, are any people who run those version management projects actually having any trouble with it? Like, are they like begging for help, or?
NVM.
Okay.
And part of it is an independence question as well, because it's still under Tim Caswell's account.
Yeah, I was gonna
He
say,
hasn't managed
Tim.
it. So there's a little bit of concern there about the fact that he hasn't given up that ownership, but he's on top. So can we move it into an independent space?
It's a good history of getting that project though.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, Tim doesn't strike me.
No, I know, but what's the option to move it into someone else's private space or to move it into Foundation? Like, he would do that.
I mean, probably just create an NVM or.
Yeah. I mean, and that could be one of the outcomes of this discussion group, actually, is that maybe they go and do their own thing. But there's some interesting things happening there. And it expands into a whole lot of topic areas around node installing and that sort of ease of use thing. So it should be a productive.
One thing that is interesting, I don't know if you've looked entirely at the space, but many of the node version managers, particularly the prominent one on Windows, actually also has an NPM manager, a version manager in it, which if they're looking to actually write like a new thing, I think that would be really fantastic.
I think that's probably part of it.
Yeah, it's extremely helpful.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think NVM does that by default, and a lot of people value that.
Well, NVM, you can't switch versions of NPM within a single version of Node. You would still have to be globally
Right,
installed.
I need to do it.
But Node.js allows you to, oh, hey, check this out.
Go.
Can you mute that? Yeah, okay, so if you want to participate, actually, just go to that URL there. There's some good discussion there. They're having meetings, and they're putting all their notes on there, so that's great. Node 0.10 has been retired, so that was at the end of October. The usage numbers for 0.10 is still fairly high. We're in a Windows XP situation where Node 0.10 was a really popular version of Node because it was like that's when Node reached its real maturity and everyone said, okay, it's time to adopt this thing. So that's when we saw an explosion of Node usage, but it hung on too long and became a little bit entrenched, and then the delta between 0.10 and 4 and even 12 was large enough that it's actually not, it's a little bit painful getting off it. So users are struggling to get off 0.10. But we're not prepared to extend support for it from 4 to. We get a few complaints about that, but we have to draw a line, and we've done that. 0.12 will be retired at the end of the year as well, and that's when OpenSSL support ends for those as well. So we're not prepared to support that when we don't have OpenSSL support either.
Do we know what the numbers are of O10 users that are actually still upgrading to newer versions? Like, we put out a new version not that long ago, and like, I mean, how many people are actually taking new versions anyway, even if we were supporting it?
Look, anecdotally, just even the customers that we have at NodeSource enterprise customers that are still on 0.10, they're like 0.10.28, you know, that kind of thing. They're struggling to even just get upgrades. So it's the nature of that sector of users, and part of our goal is to make it easier and less painful. And I think we have done a lot of that work where we've minimized risk for people so that they can be more confident in upgrading in those little versions within an LTS anyway. But it's an area we're focusing on.
Yeah, like every new major that we do is the fastest adopted release that we've done.
Yeah,
Like, we're getting much better at getting people onto the new thing and reducing the barrier.
I have an interesting question for the group. Who still has projects running at their company? I don't know if you want to share that, we can do it as a show.
Source support and they're not running and
Wow, okay.
I think it's really packages.
Yeah.
Do you have any good metrics on adoption rates?
Yeah.
How long people hang on to older versions?
I can actually show you the.
Wow, look at that.
This is my talk tomorrow, so you can come and see my talk tomorrow. Sorry to everyone listening in. But this is 0-12 is actually shrinking at a really steady rate. So 0-12 is going to go. I'm confident about that. 0-10 is hanging on. It's just people are having trouble letting go of it. But the adoption rate here is version 6. This is what we want people to be on. This is perfect. And so that's the pattern that we're seeing now is what we want people to do. And so we would expect version 8 to be even better because hopefully these will be even more going.
Is this just how much?
This is just Node.js at all. That's it, isolated.
Right.
So NPM will have to.
I was about to try and pull up those numbers because we're actually seeing like an amazing graph of like basically 10 and 12 going down and adoption of 6 going. It's working very well. I'm trying to see if I can pull up the graph right now.
I've seen those graphs from Lori, they're great.
Yeah.
Basically just going through Lori.
The important point here is that people are using the versions we want them to. 4 is the most popular still, and 6 is on track to overtake that very soon. So that's where we want people to be, and this is okay to be here for quite a while longer. So these are great. This is a version 5, which really should be on there, but people will get used to that pattern. I think. Do you want to plug in? Or?
Well, I don't know if you can see it, but let's see. The top line here is 4, and this is 6 going up, and that's 12 going down, and that's 10 going down.
Chat, right? Or is that? Oh, that's right.
Is there a chat?
We're all in person. We're not all on the.
So our numbers.
So like the numbers are looking really good.
The numbers that Node.js all look the same to 6. 10 is not as good as your numbers though. So that's quite promising. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess this potentially suggests that it's like at least for people using stuff in production, it's really both of them are just going straight down.
That's great.
Fascinatingly enough, 12 is going down way faster than 10.
Yeah, no, it's because it was never up particularly high, so.
Well, it actually shows here that it was above 10.
But not for long. If you go back longer, it was like,
This is why I shouldn't get
Do you expect
that.
downloads to stay steeper? That's new people downloading.
New
downloads.
Yeah, I mean,
Clearly
it's hard to interpret because the numbers we're getting from Node.js.org are actually people either going to the site, but more likely they're using automatic tools that pull the version down somehow. Like NPM will do that.
Oh, you know, so
Travis will be.
I was gonna say, if it's Travis, then all the packages that are like that you're still supporting are doing that.
Yeah.
But if you were running it in production, that would show up here. So
That's right.
I guess 10 has probably more support in the ecosystem, but it's being used less in production.
So Travis is deprecating 10. Like, they're deprecating support for 10 as well.
Well, then that's gonna be, assuming the serious, we should see those numbers drop.
Couldn't they like append a query string or something, like since there's such a big portion of our downloads, like when they fetch it, they could just.
Travis is really not into doing that.
Well,
The only reason I know is because we begged Travis to do it for NPM stuff, and they won't.
we could do it through NVM because they just defer it into NVM. They still get NVM.
Let's bring it around.
Okay, so 0-10, I mean, that's just something to keep an eye on. We'll have updates for that, I think, as we continue, because this is also part of an ongoing discussion that we're having, because this has not been, this has not been unpainful. So anyway, 0-10 is resigned. And version 6 went LTS. I don't think that was in last meeting, but 0.6, the version 6 went from current to LTS, and we've seen a rapid shift of users between 4 and 6. It's been great. We're really happy with that release and that shift. Version 7 is out that's going to be for 6 months or so. The TSC is spending some money on getting some people here to the conference. We don't spend much money, but we have been spending. We're putting in, and hopefully the next funding, wherever it goes, there'll be money for people getting in there.
I got some feedback that we didn't do a very good job of explaining how to take advantage of travel funds.
Yeah, no, we were really late with it too.
Yeah,
We did, yeah. It wasn't handled well. But I think it's really the first time we've really exercised that muscle anyway. So we're figuring that out, and hopefully the people that have been involved in doing that process will take that and do it again. Like, I don't want to be responsible to be the person doing that. But yeah. So now that TSE knows they've got money to spend, and there's a path to spending it, particularly for this kind of thing, then I imagine it'll be useful.
We do conference scholarships generally also too. True.
Yeah.
If community members want to have it.
Technically, we have it in there, but we've never exercised it for a non-foundation conference, just because we've never pushed on people to exercise it. But it is there. It's, I mean, yeah.
But are you suggesting that the board could give money for scholarships to non-foundation conferences?
No, I'm saying that the money already allocated to TSC already has the scope that
Denise was talking about further than TSC.
Right, I think I was talking about travel generally to related events, and if we have.
All net related.
So the allocation, the resolution for the allocation for the TSC travel fund was given. Specifically, it defers a lot of how it's managed to the TSC, but it does say specifically that TSC can send people that aren't from the TSC, and they can send them to non-foundation conferences. That's already in it.
Yeah, and for example, we might want to use that to say ship somebody to a TC39 meeting. The kind of use that we would want to do.
Good.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So it's already
That'd be
there,
great.
but I just think the point that Denise ought to make is that the jurisprudence for when to make those decisions is not well thought out.
Yeah.
They have the power to do it, but nobody's exercising that power to do so. So there's not a good.
Well, there's nobody applying because nobody knows.
Yeah,
But then
So before every patch,
Yeah,
there's a public announcement that to remind people that, you know, if we want as many people as possible to attend, and here's where you apply, right?
So I think there's two things here. One is that the TSC is trying to, like, we're spending money to get collaborators together to have a collaborative summit to do things in core. I think, and it'll probably come on the Tracy's discussion, that when we start looking at community more and have a community focus group, that's when we might start reaching out beyond that collaborator group and saying, we want to facilitate kids.
Yeah, I actually think it's a really great idea to have that community scholarship available and more widely advertised. I just don't know, like, who's administering and scaling through, like, adding requirements for, like, what that means. Well, right, and that's, I don't think it is. And then, it's just, it is a lot of work. I mean, I know that, like, when we started, we sort of, I think we kind of accidentally started that, like, snowball effect when we were trying to get Rich and Anna to the conference initially, and realizing that other people should also be extended that opportunity to get to the conference.
Right.
And that's just within the TSC, and that's a lot of people to coordinate as well. So that's that's tough. Even just from y'all's side, I imagine that's probably going to take more organization in future years just to make sure that.
Yeah.
Ahead of time.
I was noticing it, I'm not.
I mean, because the idea is lovely,
but
but it's a lot of work.
We will exercise that muscle and improve. So is that all that I've got to?
I think it's just one more.
As a point of order, we're already almost half an hour behind.
That's a nice graph. Okay, that's actually the better graph because there's the old stack. Actually, this is the same version 6 that you've got from NPM. That's version 6, which has overtaken version 4 already. So these are their swap places. And this intersection here is actually when we flipped version 6 to LTS.
Wow.
So almost exactly, which is beautiful. So the version 12 is decreasing at a steady rate. Like, that's predictable. You can almost draw that out to 0. It's just this version 10. It is a steady decline, but it's not as steady as we'd like. So that's but the message for this one is that LTS, the LTS schedule thing's working really well. We're really happy with those things.
And that's all for the public session. Denise, do you want to close the meeting?
What do we want to do?
Oh, do we want to check? Let's check and see if there are any questions from the community.
We're definitely some first time people. It looks like there
Want to do a
are.
call for it?
So I guess For the purposes, since there is not officially any questions, I think a lot of the new people are not entirely certain what the topics addressed in these meetings are.
Mhm.
So, maybe if, I know it's tricky to get the deck out
Mhm.
quick, but if we could maybe send that out ahead of time.
Also, if there was something that the community really wanted to see addressed at that level, like we could.
So I think one of the things that we could do is if we could shoot the deck out early, and then be like, if there's anything that you wish to see in here that you don't see in here, like message Ashley or whatever, and like, I'll just like figure out if it's in scope or not in scope.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a nice thing. I don't know if it's possible to do the deck early. It seems like it's really hard.
The public deck we can get out early.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And he generally does get them out, he was like,
Yeah. That sucks.
Yeah.
I was, yeah.
But it's definitely done.
Just to ask a question.
Yeah.
yeah, so we can just ask people that are on the phone if they have any questions.
But none of the folks
I
on
actually
the
told
YouTube
them at the beginning, there will be a moment for questions, so please post your questions here. No, but
Yeah,
the
we-
only question I got was what is covered in.
All right, so in
Yeah.
the interest of time, I think we should probably close this meeting so we can move on. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.